Hi everyone, welcome to 345 Tech Talks. I'm Andrew, I'm with Danny, and today we're going to talk about IoT. We're going to talk about how IoT is changing the world, what's happening in some of the consumer space, but mostly what's happening in the commercial space. So welcome aboard. We've decided to make an effort today, and we've got our best shirts on, and we're going to make we're going to put more of an effort in. Down a lot of the year, it's just kind of been a bit t-shirt and jeans, but we're going to put a little bit more effort in. So, Danny, I hope you've got more of those shirts to come over the next few weeks.
Get the collection dusted down.
Absolutely. So where are we going to start then?
I think a good place to start is what is IoT, which that sounds obvious. And the reason why I ask that is because we hear about it, and actually a lot of people use it without knowing actually what it is. So it'd be a good question to start really, and just to help people understand what IoT actually is, and then we'll maybe go into some examples, and people will then maybe start to relate a little bit more.
Yeah, so effectively, IoT, I mean, IoT is short for Internet of Things. And doesn't really tell you an awful lot more, but which basically they're things that are connected over the internet. And the concept of IoT is devices, so bits of equipment that have electronics in them that can both report back to a central location over the internet of what's going on, but also receive commands to actually do stuff. So some and IoT has been, I suppose, the thing that most people have heard about IoT is in the in the consumer space, and that's in some ways given it a bit of a funny reputation, because it's like smart fridges that will tell you when you need to buy your milk, or you take something out of the fridge and it'll add it to your shopping list. That kind of thing is the very, very consumer end of IoT.
Yeah.
But there are many applications to that where this is really, really valuable stuff. So an example that everyone might know is that you might have a smart meter in your house measuring your gas and electricity. A smart meter is an IoT device. It's in your house, and there are millions of them that report back how much electricity everyone's using, so that the electricity generating can then provision the right amount of power to be generated, and also that we're collecting data on that, so that you can then maybe run analytics on it and predict it. But a smart meter in your house is probably one of the most widely used IoTs. A lot of people, have Hive, a Hive system for their central heating, so that you can go on your phone, you can turn your central heating on half an hour before you come in, or you've got a system that controls it, because Hive is transmitting the temperature in your room back to a central location, and it's also then receiving a command to turn radiators on and off and adjust radiators. So that again is a really good example of the two-way communication that we're talking about with IoT. Other things that are very IoT now are even a lot of things like Ring doorbells.
Yeah,
They're an IoT
huge
device. Yeah, they're a huge product that you might be using. You don't think of it as an IoT. You think of it as a doorbell, where if someone rings on your, if someone rings your doorbell, you've got an app for it and you can view it. But it is actually, technically, it's an IoT device. It's connected over the internet, and the fact that it's connected over the internet to a central location means that you've got the ability to do stuff. And so those are some kind of some of the areas of IoT that people might be familiar with, but not really think that it's actually IoT, because it's not a smart fridge.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because you said around the sort of smart meters. So it feels like there are maybe some of the bigger companies, certainly in the UK, that are really moving towards IoT. We talk every day around some of the prospects and some of the things that you can do. with a device. Can you just give us a little bit of a flavour of maybe some of the things? I know you did mention utilities there, but some of the things that maybe bigger businesses and even household names, how they may be using IoT. I know spoke in the past around parking and how it's moving traffic around cities by having these parking apps and the parking pads and things. So it'd be quite interesting to know your thoughts on that and where you maybe see it going in the future. And
so if we go back to the place where commercial IoT is kind of really big and been there for ages. I mean, it's things like asset tracking. Where is my lorry? Where is my van? That kind of thing of a vehicle transmitting its position every second or every few seconds or whatever. That's been around quite a long time now, but that didn't used to be necessarily IoT in the sense that they used to be radio based, so they transmit using a radio signal, and then there were radio networks, like there still are radio networks around the country that receive that signal. What's perhaps changed now is that they've got a SIM card in them, these devices, and so they might they'll take the GPS. They've got a GPS and a SIM card, and they'll transmit a location. So that's what a modern asset tracking thing will just be a GPS and a SIM card and transmit position of something, and just transmit literally, here's my GPS coordinates, here's the timestamp, here is a serial number, and that's it, and then they'll just transmit that. And that again has been used quite widely for black boxes in cars, which I think we might have talked about before. That a lot of insurance companies now are saying that you can have cheaper insurance if you put a black box in your car, because then they know because you've got your position over time. They know whether you're moving, they know when you're moving, how many hours you're driving, how many miles you're driving, what time of day you're driving, what type of roads you're driving on, and so your risk can be more accurately measured. And so I mean, particularly if you're a low risk driver, then that can result in much lower premiums. So
I actually think there's finance companies that use that very system, in terms of, like you say, having to have that sort of black box to parts. It's slightly different in terms of being able to immobilize a car by using this black box theory.
and that's a great example of the command coming the other way. So a lot of people just think about IoT devices as just sensors that transmit stuff, but a really important thing, like you say, is that command side of it. So I'm not in my car, immobilize it. That's a great example of the commands going the other way.
It's not just one way. So I mean, we know that the IoT, like you said, there is being used in asset tracking, but there's we always see, obviously being 345, we like to know what that data is actually doing. So yes, there's a lot of data, like you just said there, what roads are being driven on, what speeds are they doing, how is the driving, where they are in the country is obviously really important. But that analytics side, can you talk to us a little bit around the importance of that, certainly from a from a business change perspective and growth?
Yeah, so as a lot of stuff, like we say, that a lot of IoT, a lot of IoT is gathering a lot of data, and a lot of it is just being used to alert on whether So for example, let's say you're a national restaurant chain, and you've got fridges, and those fridges have got temperature sensors in them. And at the moment, you might be and that's a really great thing to collect those temperatures automatically. Because otherwise, someone literally, going back old school, which is where most companies are, but they've got a logbook and they have to go so many times a day, write in the logbook what the temperature is, and then maybe send those logbooks into central place for storage or something. And it's kind of you've got to do it because of food standards and that sort of thing. And then the next thing is, okay, you get an online sensor, so you get an IoT device that measures that temperature. And one of the things that they may do then is to say, okay, if the fridge temperature goes above 6 degrees, it sends a warning, and someone has to go and have a look at it. And that's kind of where a lot of these sort of things are now. They might send warnings when things look like they're going wrong, but not necessarily an awful lot more about that. But just think about. If you knew the temperature of the fridges, for example, even every degree, even though you might be within legal limits, each degree cooler that you are, you might actually have a better shelf life on your goods or more freshness or something. You may actually want to, if you could control the fridges at the same time, you might want to actually not be too cold, because if the fridge is too cold, then things that could ice up, or you could be consuming more power than you need to. Because if the fridge has got to be at 5 degrees C, for example, and your fridge is at 2, that means you're consuming more electricity than you need to. So again, if you could actually send control systems to tell the fridge, hey, just back off a little bit, and we don't need to be quite that cold, that might save you, that might save you a bit of money on that fridge. But then you multiply that out for, I mean, this is where scale is a really important thing, because if you've got thousands of fridges, because you've got all these different, you've got branches, or if you're a Pizza Hut, or you're a McDonald's, or you're a Starbucks or something like that, and you've got branches in every town, and each one of those has got several fridges and several ovens or whatever. Just as soon as you multiply it up by thousands and thousands of units, actually the savings are huge. The savings in labour for writing those things down, and the savings in potentially electricity by being a bit smarter about how you control these things.
Yeah.
So that's where a lot of things are now, is just in the alerting when things are wrong. But then well, what happens? But then if you add control onto that, that gives you a whole load of opportunities. But also it's the predictive analytics that also help, because if you can spot patterns over time. So for example, if you can see that over time, when fridges start to get warmer and warmer and warmer, that means that something's going to go and they need regassing or something. Then you can actually plan that in. So instead of waiting till something's gone wrong, you can actually predict when something's going to go wrong and actually take action before that to put things right. But do that in a planned way. Do it on a day when it's going to have the least impact on your business.
So you're alleviating that downtime
Yeah.
by, having that analytics to hand, and then, we might be creeping into a bit of an AI sort of conversation now. We won't touch on it too much because we do talk about it a bit, but that predictive side.
Predictive maintenance. There are AI models that are well known, well established for predictive maintenance and for anomaly detection. So we can almost take a model now, plug it into some of this IoT data, and train the model on that data. But we know what the models are now. It's established, so that we can then start to take the output of those and to then be getting results of either you need to maintain this on the 12th of June, or yes, or you need to or someone needs to go and have a look at this right now, because of anomalies, not necessarily because it's completely out of kilter, but some weird stuff's happening that doesn't normally happen. So those are quite well-known models. I mean, another area, when we talked about utilities with smart meters, but another example you might be looking at is and we've been looking into this ourselves, is water networks, the water companies, because they pay a lot of money to put water at a clean water. It costs a lot of money to clean the water. It costs a lot of money to pressurize it and go through a load of pipes. Now, when there's a leak, for example, if you were measuring the flow all over a water network, you might be able to then put some AI in place that could say, actually, that's a leak. And then and so you'd identify where the leaks were, and then using the control side of AI, you could maybe be isolating that by shutting off valves, diverting the flow around the different routes so that you didn't actually lose as much water in that area. But also by using AI to analyze what a leak looks like, you can then raise the appropriate alerts and get someone to go and fix it, maybe before it's been reported by anyone else. So that's a really good example of an AI, AI and utilities that can really, can potentially save a lot of money, but also it's just saves a lot of waste. There's nothing good about wasting energy and wasting water. They're precious natural resources that we should be using as wisely as we can. So that's a really good thing of that. But all this and that sort of thing. There's also, I mean, we've done some work in the past on oil and gas and mining and that sort of thing. So, for example, if you've got an oil pipe or a gas pipe going across, from Qatar across Saudi Arabia or something, where there might be hundreds and hundreds of miles of desert, you don't really want to have people going out there unless you really want to. So again, IoT for that sort of thing is really, really powerful, because you can be monitoring that equipment. You can be measuring how much flow's going through it. You can control valves and that sort of thing remotely. And sometimes these things don't even have, you don't have a phone signal. You don't have internet. Well, some of these systems, literally, you get once or twice a day, there's a satellite goes over, and you have to literally ping a satellite when it goes over, because you're out in the middle of nowhere. But that's okay. You can still do that. You can still issue commands. They'll be stored up, and then when the satellite goes over, you can synchronize that. So it's there's a lot to be done in that. But and so really if we look at where the sweet spot is, though, I mean, the sweet spot really for getting benefit of IoT. I mean, one of the things is that things have to be generating data. I mean, that's if something doesn't generate data, then it's not really going to be a candidate. But whether it's machinery, environment, the position of things, of vehicles or freight, buildings, whether it's environment in buildings, so temperature, humidity, or whether it's things like like say the gas and electricity consumption, or what's the state of your boiler. There's all sorts of buildings applications, but also optimizing inputs. So particularly in various types of manufacturing and chemical processing, if you can be measuring the raw materials, the water, the electricity that goes into a plant, and there's all sorts of opportunities then to be saving huge quantities of money. But with IoT, the other side of it is just the scale. It's just where there are potentially thousands of these things distributed all over the place, and I think that's the difference between putting sensors in a factory and and processing that data, and that isn't really we wouldn't normally think of that as IoT, but when you scale that out to put sensors in hundreds or thousands of places, that's kind of what we're talking about with IoT. So that's a bit of a flavour of some of the things we've been looking at in this area.
Yeah, it definitely feels like there's almost like a two-pronged approach with IoT, which is why I guess we sort of went down that road of the consumer, which is just more of a benefit to the consumer, makes life a little bit easier, if that makes sense. And then from the commercial aspect, and the bigger companies that are using it, taking that data, and then hopefully, this is what we all hope, that they're using that data, analyzing it, and doing the right things with that data, and ultimately changing the way they do things based on the based on what they're seeing from that data side. So it definitely feels like there's a lot more that we could probably talk about. Now, I'd like to do hopefully another episode if we can, because I really want to eke out some of the the opportunities with IoT. So those things that you spoke about previously are things that we're currently, you know, talking about, having conversations with certain people around, and certainly stuff that we've spoken about internally. But I'd like to almost try and just stretch that elastic a little bit and just say, well, actually, what are the possibilities with IoT? How far can we take it with the technology that's actually there, ready to go? So I'd be really keen if we can do another episode, maybe next week or within the next couple of weeks, obviously with a shirt on, that just helps us
with a different shirt on.
With a different shirt on, just to just to really sort of get people's imaginations flowing around what the possibilities actually are.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. So I think that's a really good place to wrap up for today. And next time we'll start drilling into some more of those applications and maybe looking a bit more depth about how they actually work, but also just setting people's imaginations going about what it could actually, what can it do for your business, what could it do for your home, or if you made a product, what could it do for your product? So, but we'll definitely look at that in a bit more detail. So, thanks everyone for listening, and we will be back next time with a bit more IoT. So goodbye from me.
Cheers, guys. Take care.
All right, see you later. Bye now.